what is it with sort of the alpha? It's often the alpha male and female that is so attractive to people, right? I see on social media, it happens a lot where somebody is trying to sell you some sort of system to make a whole bunch of money, and they're sitting in this really big grand house. Um, and or maybe there's a fancy car behind them, or beautiful people that are just sitting around. Like, who does that, right? Like, you know, um, that's my life. Is I've got a bunch of so I'm male, so of course I have a whole bunch of just like females sitting around in bikinis. Like, whose life is that anyways? But, you know, the thing is not necessarily that is like super funny and ironic. That there is a sort of, people just sit around, Hugh Hefner style in a, with a bikini, with a bunch of bikini people around. I guess bikini women, who else wears that? And then, who has these kind of lives where they're in these like giant mansions? That's ridiculous, right? Like, the thought of it just sounds totally ridiculous. But who in their right mind actually believes this stuff, right? Like, that's the thing that is flabbergasting to me, is that this is somehow people believe this, right? Like, you look at your normal life, a person's normal life, right? What is a normal life? It's going into, if you're an adult over the age of 16, even if not, right? Like, you're going into someplace. Maybe it's you're going into school or you're going into work. And then that's your life. And then you come home to a moderately sized, dwelling. If you're in the city, it's an apartment. If you are in a small town, it's usually some sort of house. And then you have some dinner. You maybe watch a little bit of TV or go into social media or whatever for a brief moment, and then you go home and you go to bed. And you do that routinely. Who in their right mind is actually believing these alternative universes? I understand the escapism behind it, but how on earth do people actually believe it, right? Like, believe that sort of fictitious fantasy world that clearly nobody, if you just stop and think and you look around the world, nobody lives like that, right? Like, even these sort of get rich quick schemes where they tell you how to make a whole bunch of money or whatever. And then they've got all these computer screens in the background that shows like stock markets going up and down. I don't know a single person that lives like that, right? Like, I just don't, it's not in my world. I've never met anybody like that. It's not even in like, when I see this at work, that's not how most people actually work. I've never really seen that. There's this display at my work. It's called the trading room. And, it's got fancy tickets, like stickers and things like that are with like stock prices flowing around. It's all for display. It's like right in the center. So it looks like it's, it looks like there's all this busyness going on. But then you go in it, and it's like people getting taught, how to copy and paste in Excel. They've got all these computers in it, and it's just people like learning how to copy and paste. That world, the Matrix world or whatnot, is an entire fiction. If you follow these quick, easy stats, the whole thing is a fiction. It's all made up. It's like this alternative world that doesn't exist. And yet, man, we follow it like all of us, we get sucked into it. I get sucked into the world of the sort of fantasy for the brief moment. I'm never going to give them any money or anything like that. I think it's ridiculous. But how on earth do we get sucked into this, knowing like it's almost like a religion, right? Like some people call it a new religious movement is the technical name. I don't know if that's still true, but it's like it's almost like a cult, right? Like that is the colloquialism that lots of people use. And where you just kind of get like gravitationally pulled because of somebody's, and they often don't have a lot of charisma, right? Like they have this kind of weird, even if male or female, it's kind of like machoism or very strong like vibes of, I guess it's like confidence, right? Like it feels like they're doing these displays of confidence, and yet like deep down inside, they're all just like crying. It's really bizarre to me why this stuff works. And it's one thing that it exists, but another thing that is like, man, that works. Right. I know another sort of area where that kind of works is like these, Prince, I don't know, Prince Abu Dhabi from some unknown country, or maybe in another place in the world. We're going to give you $1 million if you mail us $10,000 kind of thing. You get all these email spams like that. I understand that there's some people that, generally it's a lot. It's elderly that they might be going through the early stages of Alzheimer's or something like that, and they kind of can't pull out of this fantasy world. But and they have the money too, right? Like it's a legitimate thing. There is people that I know that their parents have lost a whole boatload of money into these kind of very like obvious scams like that. And it's usually when they're getting into some state of dementia or Alzheimer's or something, like the beginning of stages of that. And, but that is a small group of people. And I understand that the incentive is there just for a small group of people. If you mail 10,000 times, you get one that's actually going to do that. But the entire aspect, like where real people that don't have something like that actually get suckered into it. The sort of macho world, I can't fathom it. I can't figure it out. I wish I could. I wish I understood the psychology of it. This sort of charisma thing where, people are, you feel clearly getting suckered, right? Like it's obvious that you're getting suckered right from the get-go. People that are extraordinarily wealthy, they look very normal. Like a normal person that has a whole boatload of money. Like real people, millionaires and billionaires and all that kind of stuff, that have boatloads of money. They look normal. You cannot distinguish them at all. They're not walking around. Maybe I don't know. I've never met a billionaire, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I met a billionaire because they look like normal. They don't have this sort of bizarre world thing, right? Like they don't have a harem of all of these, like people walking around in bikinis, all these, driving around with sunglasses on yachts. That world does not exist. I don't know why we get suckered into these things when we know it doesn't exist. I've met a lot of people that are extraordinarily wealthy, like really wealthy. I mean, not a lot. I would say, at least 100 people, which I would consider for most people is a lot of people. And they, you talk to them, you can't distinguish them from anybody else. You can't tell that they are extraordinarily wealthy. I just think it's really bizarre that we have this conception. It's very cartoony like. But not only that, but we fall for it. Why? Why do we fall for it? I don't know. All right. Take care. Have a wonderful day.